Hey fellow golfers, ready for another series of great tips? Well, this time I'm going to take 10 top tips from the great Jack Nicklaus. Who better with his track record to suggest some really useful and important things to think about and to adapt to. Remember, he won 18 majors, 19 runner-ups. What a incredible feat. A record that still hasn't been beaten to this day, not even by the fabulous Tiger Woods. His first tip, which I think really helps all of us, and it's particularly relevant these days when there's so many tools, so many different measurement devices, so many pieces of advice out there. His first piece of advice was, don't overtinker. Own your own swing. If you've got a particular type of movement, don't try to completely change that. Trust your swing, own it. Adapt your swing to what you're trying to achieve. Look at Jim Furyk's swing. For that matter, look at Matthew Wolff, who's currently, as of today, leading in the US Open as a 21-year-old and in his first major. He's got a very strange, unconventional start, but clearly working. He's 3 strokes ahead of Bryson DeChambeau going into the 4th round. Incredible, incredible. So don't overtinker. Own your own swing. So if you got a particular foible, so Matthew tends to do this and come through. Furyk has an odd twist at the top. That's fine. If you can execute still the shot well, own it, trust it. The second great tip from Jack Nicklaus, relevant to everyone, but especially to seniors, is focus on your arms. You know, the conventional wisdom is focus on your body. But actually his advice was focus on your arms. You want to get as big a swing with your arms as possible. You want to get your arms in the right position. And then get your body in the right position. And turn your hip, which means rotate your hip, not sway. So it's not swaying your hips. Put your body in the right position by turning your, in my case as a left-hander, the left hip more. Get the body in the right position, but you focus on your arms. Interesting. It's certainly working for me. And as a senior, that will also help you get those higher swing speeds, a straighter trajectory, be able to do the draws, which I'll come back to. The third, and it's related to the same issue, is the so-called X factor. So all common advice is you want your shoulder turn and your hip turn to be quite different. Shoulder being much greater than your hip turn to get that speed as you come down. Well, actually, particularly as you age, that becomes harder and harder. And his advice was actually be somewhat more closed, lifting your front foot up on the backswing, planting it, and giving you the strength with your hip flexor on the way down will give you the power that you need. So focus on your arms, get your body in the right position, use the hip flexor muscles with the leg movement to give you the power. Okay. The fourth tip is to pick 2 or 3 key points. So if your ball is teed up here, pick a point about 2 inches in front of it. So that's your initial coming through. And then 2 feet beyond it where the path that you're trying to follow before, of course, your turn happens. So you're thinking, okay, that's the direction that I'm coming through. And then 2 feet behind that is your initial takeaway. You'll see Justin Thomas or JT do this all the time in all of his shots. He does this. He looks as that his path is right. He's got that right direction, and then he executes. He executes. Executes. So pick your imaginary points. In relation to the first tip that he gave about owning your own swing, focus on finding your own pace. Don't try to force a pace that your body doesn't allow. So focus on your own pace. Maybe that'll change a little bit as you get fitter, but focus on a smooth tempo back and a smooth tempo through. Smooth tempo back and a smooth tempo through. You see all the great players, maybe a little less Bryson DeChambeau of late, but Justin Thomas, that I took an example of earlier, is a good example of that. You don't see him swinging so hard. You see him having a nice smooth takeaway, and it looks as if he's coming really softly through. From the older players, if you go back to people like Ernie Els or Fred Couples, you'll see that same smooth. They look almost relaxed, and yet they hit it a long way. The sixth tip, which is very helpful, and you'll hear a lot of the pros talk about this in the interviews at the end of each round of the current US Open at Winged Foot, and that is take your medicine, accept imperfections. You're always going to have a bad swing. You're always going to do a bad shot. Don't beat yourself up for it. Accept it as the bad shot. Focus on the next one. Stay relaxed, stay calm, and go back to that routine, that smooth tempo, the imaginary points, the use of focusing on your arms, and I'll be surprised if a shot or two later you don't hit a very good shot. So accept your imperfections, they're always going to happen, and move on. Another very helpful advice and tip from Jack Nicklaus is learn to do the draw shot. And the reason for that is if you want more distance, you need to learn to draw. You don't need to change your swing for the draw. What you do is really two small steps. One is close the face ever so slightly, and how much you need to close it depends partly on the layout of your course, partly on what result you're getting from applying these two. So you may want to test this out on your particular course or on the key holes that you know it'd be very helpful in particular to be able to draw the ball. So you close your face slightly. Just very slightly close your face. And then be more closed in your stance, slightly more closed in your stance. And one way to do that is to take your stance, pull your back foot back 2 inches, align yourself slightly closed with that closed face, and then do your normal swing. You're not changing your swing, the same swing that we talked about earlier, but your face is closed. What that will do is it'll deal off the club, and it'll affect your spin as you come through. So you can have that right path, and as you come through, your closed face is going to bring the ball back into a draw. So the 8th tip that I think is really helpful and critical was to focus on your ball position. Sounds simple, but your ball position in each case might be slightly different, not so much just between your woods and your hybrids and irons, but because of your own swing that we were just talking about. So depending on how you swing, your key ball position for each shot might be slightly different. And there are 2 factors that affect this. One is how you come back and where your face is square on the way down. So you want the face to be square as you hit just before the ball. Just slightly before the ball, you want the face to be square. So try a shot, maybe take a little divot, see where you, with that club, you're naturally turning, and if it's in a particular place that you're beginning, just you know that the ball position is just in front of that. The second to double check that is, what is the bottom of your arc? What is the bottom of your arc? And you want to be just slightly before the bottom of your arc, particularly on iron shots, of course, because you're coming down into the ball. But also for hybrids. So 2 key points: check your ball position, find the ball position that suits your swing. The next tip is that he gives is do a complete arc. So many people sort of think, okay, because you shouldn't be turning as much, they even do it too less, and then they try to hold the ball up. But he believed you do a complete arc and drive with your legs. So this was the point of lifting the front foot and using your foot weight, coming down as you come through, up, down as you come through, with that hip flexor muscle and your arms doing the work. So all the way through and your arms doing the work. Same swing, but a complete arc. Same swing, but a complete arc. And by bringing that left, in my case the left foot, back slightly and being slightly closed for that draw shot, much easier to do the full arc. Hey, 10 great pointers from the great Jack Nicklaus. Hope these have been helpful for you. Try and put them together. It's really about adapting the golf swing to you. Keep it simple, stay calm, nice easy swing, nice tempo. Learn that draw shot. Use your legs, focus on your arms, use the hip flexor to give you the speed. Happy golfing. See you on the flip side.